What screams I'm very insecure? I mostly see this at work. People who are in upper management and treat people like garbage just because they can. Being unnecessarily mean, rude or bitter to people. Treating new employees like garbage just because you're threatened they might take your job someday. I learned that the best way to get to know someone was to give them power and see what they do with it. Used this technique before promoting people. I would give them a project and put them in charge to see how they worked with the people under them. If they were assholes, I could address it. If they did well, I could promote them. This is a self-roast, but I think I degrade myself just to hear others deny it. Is that insecure? I do this and I definitely think it comes from a desire to get ahead of it. Like, if I put myself down first, then how badly can it hurt if someone agrees? It's created a cycle of almost compulsive negative self-talk that I'm trying to deprogram. Trying to dominate conversations, not to be confused with just being a charismatic person. I know a guy who will talk forever, on and on about something that may or may not be interesting to anyone but him in the first place. If anyone has something else to say that leads to a small tangent or participation of other people in the room, he becomes visibly annoyed and will bring it back within any way at the earliest opportunity and continue ranting. I don't like him. Edit, a lot of people are saying that they feel like they are this person. Just to clarify, it's not just the fact that he talks a lot and tends to be ranty that annoys me. Some people just have very active brains, and sort of runaway thought patterns if you will, and I get that. It's the fact that he seems offended that anyone would dare steal his conversation spotlight and want to participate that screams insecurity. When people have and insist on constantly checking on their significant other via some tracking app on their phone. It's one thing to have it and use it in case of emergency, but using it while out with your friends to make sure he's actually at work is creepy and super insecure. As an insecure person, I find it hard to look people in the eyes. I also find it hard to tell any stories about myself, because I'm afraid people will think I'm lying, or that I won't be part of the group because of personal differences. I always think everyone is better than me. I can see all the good in everybody, but I know that they see all the bad in me. Insecure people stand in the corner and don't join the group. Lifestyle creep. Constant fishing for compliments when around people, e.g., I'm so chunky, as a direct way to get someone to tell you that you look great. I've found that a lot of people on Twitter that feel the need to post about how great of a person they are and they have nothing but good intentions are usually the most toxic people I've seen. It's like they're trying to convince themselves. I also notice that the things they write about themselves are the kind of things you should let other people say about you. It's just tacky. I used to be very insecure, so I'll go from my own experience. Lying about something to seem cool. It's very obviously a signal of insecurity because they don't like who they are now. I have a brother who does this. He's so insecure about whether people see him as an idiot that he's getting his PhD so he can officially be the smartest person in the room wherever he goes. Almost verbatim. Dude lies pathologically about the dumbest shit. When you question yourself, do they actually like me or are they pretending to? Or when you think you're gonna bother other people if you talk to them. In college I had a friend who seemed to believe that everyone in our friend group was just pretending to like him or just tolerating him. He seemed to believe this because occasionally he would pick up on subtle signs of irritation towards him. What he didn't understand is that even if you are good friends with everyone in a group, that doesn't mean that no one in the group will find you annoying from time to time. Just for him, one day I pulled him aside and got out a pen and paper. I created what I called the tilt web. I wrote everyone in this friend group's name on the paper, forming a circle of names. Then I proceeded to draw arrows between names. I said each arrow represents that the person who the arrow is pointing to is sometimes slightly annoyed by the person the arrow is drawn from. All 10 people on the group except one had at least one arrow to and at least one arrow from them. The problem with this kind of insecurity is that they won't believe someone if they are simply told that they are fine. They understand that if someone doesn't really care about them, it's still a lot easier to tell them that they are fine, even if they aren't. Now that we have both graduated, he mentioned that he hasn't forgotten me drawing that web and that it was a lot more meaningful to him than me just telling him that he is fine. Clicking on this post, to see if any of the top comments are things you do. Just not shutting up about yourself. Constantly lifting yourself up and comparing yourself to others, while pushing them down. Also, constantly putting yourself down and comparing yourself to others. People who always have to one-up you in everything. If you tell a story, they have a better one. If you buy something expensive, they have to be something even more expensive. Some people's whole life is trying to win some non-existent competition. My brother and I hung out with a guy for a while who was the absolutely king of one-upping people. It got to the point where we would make up slightly unbelievable stories to see how he would one-up them. Here's some of the gems he presented us. His father competed in an underground street fighting league with a titanium leg. He once watched a man get hit in the face with a severed penis, and he shot a metal target 100 yards away, blindfolded, judging its location from the sound of someone else shooting the target. Clarification on the flying D. So, he claimed to have been an EMT for a year, which didn't seem possible with the timeline of his life, but that's beside the point, and he drew a lot of his stories from his EMT days. One day, he says, he's working with a guy who's been an EMT for 30 years. They get a call about some domestic violence, so they head to the house where the police are already inside. Our friend says he stepped into the house ahead of the veteran EMT, and he was greeted by a screaming woman waving a severed penis at the two police officers already inside. As soon as she saw him, she hurled the cock right at his head, and he ducked out of the way. The airborne penis flew through the threshold of the door, striking his EMT partner in the face. The man looked down at the bloody D on the ground, looked up at our friend, the police, and the still screaming woman, threw up his hands and yelled, "That's it, I effing quit," and turned around and walked off. He said he never saw him again. People whose self-esteem is so low that they can't stand the sight of people with high self-esteem, so they will try to break down anyone they perceive as more successful than them. When a group of this type of people comes together, a major crab bucket mentality arises, and they will target people perceived as highly competent or successful for bullying, gossip, false rumors, and other things that should have been wiped out after elementary school. People who feel the need to judge everyone in a negative light and who only want to see the worst in others so they can feel better about themselves. It just shows how unhappy they truly are. Ironically, people like this also feel like they are judged unfairly and constantly by the world. My ex-fiancé was like that. Homie could make anything bad about how the world is out to get him. I get robbed at knife point and it's about how he was late to work because I couldn't come pick him up fast enough. So clearly the world hates him. Fuck that guy. Oftentimes, people don't know the difference between telling it like it is and just being flat out mean. People who tell it like it is only give their opinion when it is warranted because they would want someone to tell them the truth instead of dancing around it. However, some can cross this line and just be straight up rude, while using this same reasoning. Those who tell it like it is are secure, those who are unnecessarily mean are insecure. Not exactly a direct answer to your question, but I've always thought this and wanted to share. Posting what you're up to every day on social media. Or the vague "I'm so upset right now" status where they're praying that someone asks what's wrong. If you want to say what's bothering you, do it. Don't clickbait your own status. Immediately getting defensive whenever you try to help them. Jealousy. Automatically assuming negative intent. E.g., "You friend didn't pick your call? F her, she's trying to avoid me. I don't care about her anyway." People that modify their shitty lemon of a car to be the loudest piece of shit in a 5-mile radius. Constantly wedging humble bragging into conversations.